I am stoked to bring you our next founder interview. Nick Hall created Vita5, a multivitamin direct-to-consumer business that he eventually sold for tens of millions of dollars. He takes us through everything from starting out and finding his ideal customer to the steps it took to get to $150,000 a month in revenue. Let's get to the interview. Nick Hall, I am super excited for this interview because every interview I've done in the past has been people that are running their current business, where your business and what we focus on talking today is an exit. Even you do have a current business, and I'd like to talk about that a little later, but right now I'd like to focus on an exit. And so with that being said, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and your background?
Yeah. Some name's Nick Hall. Started a gummy vitamin brand back in college with a buddy of mine. I actually started a number of businesses before that. Always had the entrepreneurial spirit, but it's kind of, for me, it just seemed like a bit of a stretch to actually do out of college. We were very fortunate, ended up raising a little bit of money and started as a custom gummy vitamin company. First 6 months, horrible. We can talk a whole lot about the horrible because that's easier to remember than the good. But 6 months was rough. Then we started figuring out the formula, scaling, started doing multiple millions a year on our website. Then I took our Amazon and launched and scaled that pretty substantially. Then we went retail with some eco-friendly packaging at first, and then we moved over to some low sugar vitamins. And long story short, ended up going 0 to 7,000 doors in about 2 years. At that same time, I had 7 different agencies that I worked with for Amazon, of which none of them grew me. In fact, they dropped me 15%. I took it back over, had a 450% growth. A year later, that was within 3 months, continued the growth, and then ended up selling the business about a year and a half later, which now sold the business now a year and a half, almost 2 years ago, and started a marketing agency, and I've just been enjoying every little part of it. So
Good for you. And so I think you kind of hit on what Vita5 is a little bit, but what exactly is it then?
yeah, we started and switched a number of things, right? Typical within business. I don't know if all of our switches were the best ideas, but it ended up working, so it's fine. But the main thing that we started with was custom gummy vitamin packs. We were taught in college, like, you got to be so different. And I actually think it was the biggest crutch in our company because we had all these cool features that, were not scalable. And so we'd allow you to say, hey, Corey's pack. You'd have your wife's name, your kids' names, all this stuff. So you can have your whole family and you have all your vitamins. Your wife has all their, everyone has their own vitamins in their pack with their name on the back. Not scalable, a little bit more expensive, et cetera, et cetera. And we ended up switching that over. Later, we did eco-friendly packaging, which then transitioned into the classic bottles, of which for those that are watching, you can kind of see this is the type of bottle that we typically would sell now. Low sugar, make it really clean packaging, clean ingredient.
Cool. And so what inspired you to start Vita5?
My buddy and I who started at Garrett, awesome guy. And he and his mom and my mom both were sending us care packages of vitamins. We try to put them in these things, right? I still take my creatine like this, but for some reason I couldn't seem to take my multi or vitamin D or omega or anything else. And so we just, it's classic. You take it for 2 weeks and then you stop. It was are we going to be consistent in this or are we just going to, keep doing this? And it was well, the reality is the format sucks. No one, if you're super, super disciplined, you'll take them, but you don't see an actual difference with a multivitamin day 1 versus day 20, 30, maybe marginal difference. A melatonin you'll feel right away. And so we were hey, we gotta find an easier way that people actually want to take their vitamin. And so every single thing was to make it as easy as possible. Here's all your vitamins in a bag, custom to you, sent directly to your door, all that stuff.
So you had this idea. Where did you find the validation that people would be interested in it? Obviously, you guys kind of saw, hey, this is what we want, but where did you see that outside validation, I should say?
Well, I'll tell you, we didn't see validation for 6 months. It was pretty bad. We can laugh about it now. It wasn't as funny back then, but I remember in the early days, we had 100 customers at a $30 average order value, so $3,000 a month. And we look at the data after a number of months and we find out that Garrett's just got a really big family that's supporting. It wasn't even customers. And so honestly, no, we didn't find it. And it's really hard. How do you find validation? Do you go through and spend a bunch of money on this nonsense corporate research that costs you $75,000 and gets you a couple points that are total BS? For us, that wasn't the way. So it's just testing a bunch of ads and figuring out what's stuck and truly just talk with the customers, talk with who it is and figure out what is the actual need? Because usually it's not as complex as you think. So like one of my favorite businesses to this day is Take 5 Oil Change. It's a in and out 5-10 minutes. It's more expensive, but to me, all I remember as a kid was sitting at the oil change place for 2.5 hours with my dad. And it's like, ba-dum. Hopefully there's a donut shop nearby and something else where we can go waste some time because it takes so long. And I'm like, it's worth the extra $10 to get it done quick. Like to me, I'm like, they don't have better oil. They don't have nicer people, really. I don't think they don't, all they do in and out faster. So I like just changing one thing out of business.
You ran ads to find your first validation. What did that kind of look like? And how did you get funding for that? I imagine that wasn't cheap to find your ideal customer through ads.
I'm big with connections. Got to connect with people. Go connect with all the people. The younger that someone is, the easier it is to go. Just say, hey, I'm young. I'm clueless. I don't know what I'm doing. Would you mind just chatting with me? Maybe guiding me. So that's what I did with a lot of people. And the biggest thing that I had learned was we need to make sure that we're doing Facebook ads. So we spent money on Facebook and we spent money on Facebook and we spent money. We spent $15,000 on Facebook and finally got our first customer. So I don't think that we knew anything about our customer. We were just like, let's do it. And then we spent a little bit more money and our second customer came a little bit quicker. And then our third customer. And then and so it started like going. There was a lot behind it, right? And so like for those that are looking at starting an e-commerce business, if you don't understand marketing at a deep level, I'm not saying did you get a 97 on your marketing test, because my co-founder and myself were not 97 students. And in fact, most of the good marketers I know weren't necessarily super, super smart in school, but it's like, there's a lot to it. What I always say, and I've got this just a super simple spreadsheet that I'll send to people. And I'm like, is your product better than others? And everyone from this podcast to music to products is very easy.
Mm-hmm.
Go and line up all the products. And I want you to do an exercise of what is better about every other product than yours. I don't know if you've ever seen, back in the 2016 elections, one of my favorite questions to both of them, right? And this is not even a political thing. I think that it's just a great example of things. Is this nonstop bark, 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 bark. I hate you. I hate you. I hate. And my favorite question I ever asked was, name something good about the other candidate. And I'm like, I thought that was one of the coolest things, because when you're always looking for bad, or like for us as entrepreneurs, we look at it and we go, those products suck. They got seed oils. They got this. They got this. They got this. Guess what? Lay's still sells more than Siete. And yes, they acquired Siete, but and Siete is an amazing brand. But I'm like, you can't dog. They've got their plate.
That's a really good piece of advice too. It's just looking for the good in other people's products. Okay, so you found validation through basically just sheer force and will and running advertisements. You have this product that you think would work. How did you get the initial funding for the business?
Yeah, that was, I'm not a funding expert. We were fortunate to have some family friends close by. So, we went out and one of the guys that was sitting there is a private equity guy. And he came up to us after. He said, that's the easiest money you'll ever raise. So I always tell people, I'm not a funding expert. We were very fortunate. There was some family money and stuff like that. But to be honest, in the CPG world specifically, you need money. And service businesses, you don't need as much money. If you're trying to get started, go listen to Alex Hormozi. His biggest thing is to say, go start a service business, build up some cash and allow yourself to fund the next business. And CPG specifically, you have to have inventory. Usually minimum quantities are 1,000 to 5,000. And let's say it's a couple bucks a unit. Start with one product, just go deep there. I would suggest do not go to funding first. It totally, look at the companies that are most funded. They're massive out there, and then they drop off.
And if you do get somewhere, you have to end up paying out a bunch of stuff anyway, too.
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah. So there's a question I love to ask, product companies like the ones that you had. And that is businesses that have these physical products often talk about the difficulty between balancing inventory and the cash flow, especially when they're first starting out. Did you guys have that problem, and how did you balance that?
Let me tell you where we went wrong, and then I'll give an example I like to give. So the best company to follow is Dude Wipes. Sean Riley is just a classic, just good entrepreneur. He raised, I don't even know if he raised 300,000, but I think he raised 300,000 in the early days, which is, it sounds like a lot, but truthfully in this space, that is like nothing. I know people that have raised hundreds of millions and are in a whole lot worse of a position than he is. That dude is so focused. Be focused. Do not, right now I run an Amazon agency, right? And if I just say I do Amazon for everyone, It's like, okay. Well, then who does Amazon for supplements and beauty? Well, Nick just does Amazon for everyone. Like when you think of like products and product niches, like for him, he's dude wipes. Like, why hasn't he come out with lady wipes? He totally could. And I promise you, he doesn't have much of a cash issue anymore. He's doing just fine. Point being, he had one product that he started with, stuck with one product, has continued to stick with one product. Yes, he has multiple SKUs at this point, but he has one real like main product.
Mm-hmm.
I always say, if you have $100,000 and you were to launch 5 products versus one product, you can become a millionaire off of one product. You cannot become a millionaire off of 5. Let's just do the simple math. Most products are going to cost you $15,000 in product to get started. That's going to be your packaging, everything put together with your product, everything, right? This is a $20-ish product. And if you've got 5 products that you now have $75,000 that you just threw to inventory, that leaves you $5,000 per product. You cannot build a $1 million company and rebuy inventory. Let's forget about that for a second, though. You cannot build a $1 million company off of $5,000 of advertising. Take that same idea, but to one product. You got $15,000 and you have $85,000 to reinvest in the same thing. Now if you pick the wrong product, toast, right? Yeah. But I think you get the idea. Just start there and don't expand too quick. Because when we did, that almost put us out. And then I got hundreds of thousands of dollars of inventory back in my warehouse that's non-liquid cash. Like, there's no use to it. I can't go take it out. I mean, it expires. So.
Definitely. So when you first started Vita5, did you always have an exit in mind, or was that something that developed as you grew?
Yeah, I mean, we started the business when we were 21, I think it officially started. And we ran it for 7.5 years or something like that. To be completely honest, when we started it, we saw RX Bar sold for $600 million. Then we were in the time with Ollie, and then Ollie sold for like $750 million. And then Vital Protein sold for $800 million. And then Smarty Pants sold for a number of hundreds of millions. And One Bar sold for $200 million. All these companies, I don't know those exact numbers, but something like that. And we're like, let's just take this to the moon. We just want to sell. It's a really bad way of running business. And for those that want to do it, feel free to do it. It doesn't end well. It doesn't end as well as you think. When you just run a good, profitable business, you don't have to stress about anything. So we always try to make a point, and our investors were hardcore, like, we are going to be profitable because everyone wants to buy. Good economy, bad economy, people like buying EBITDA. People like profit. So for them, it's like, okay, so we always try to make it profitable throughout. We had our eyes too far on selling the business and not enough on just like current and all that stuff. So we went into certain retailers that we thought would add valuation, but didn't add profit. And it was just bad business. So now my business now, it's an agency, right? They don't sell for good multiples. Most people would sit and be like, oh, well, you're not going to make, I got a guy that tells me all the time, well, I can get a 10 to 15x EBITDA. And I'm like, that's awesome. You have no EBITDA, so you got not shit for a business, right? I'm like, guess what? I'm able to bring home money and feed my family and feed my employees. And guess what? I get to grow other companies. Like, it's so meaningful and impactful. And so I really try to keep people really far away from the idea of selling.
I love that idea too, because I think that is, there's a stigma out there of, hey, I just want to grow to sell, just grow to sell, just exactly like you had said, because that's everywhere on the internet, everywhere, everybody you talk to.
It's every highlight reel, right? But it's like what they don't show is the 98% of other businesses, 99%, whatever, that get nothing. I mean, we sold, but we didn't sell for hundreds of millions, truthfully. And it's, I mean, we're fine, right? Like, I'm more than comfortable and all that stuff. But like, man, I thought I was going to get a couple $100 million exit. And I'm like, well, not that easy. I got a guy that was so set on selling. This guy, they were doing $300,000 a year. And he's like, I want to sell my business for no less than $3 million. And I'm like, where do you get that number? And he's like, that's just my number. Now they do $2,000 a month in sales. And he's like, just take the bit, like, can you just pay me $5,000? And I'm like, man, if you would have just let your pride and ego down a little bit, you could have actually made some decent money. But instead, you let the ego and pride and all that stuff. And now you get something that's more of a liability than it is an asset.
Yeah, there's some good lessons there. So moving to the next section, marketing, and how you did marketing on Vita5. When I was doing research for this, and I think you've already touched on this a little bit, the custom and personalized packaging, Vita5 had a subscription service that would send customers personalized vitamins. Where did that idea come from, and what did that do to the company's growth?
I try to speak real, because when I go back and, I just was talking with my co-founder, we're still really good friends to this day. There is not one thing that's going to just make you grow. And so that was our first kind of like business idea unit, whatever. I thought it was a really good value. A lot of people loved it, like, was awesome. We don't do that anymore though. And the reason why is it was more of an operational headache than anything. Now, we could have continued to build it. It's great business. People love it. It's awesome. But it does get funky if you ever decide to cut a product and you've got, 1,000 people with Omega, and now you're having to take out the Omega, and it's like, that's kind of crappy. So just little things like that. So, but yeah, from a marketing standpoint, I think, let's go deeper into some of that stuff, because that's the real test, and things have changed year over year.
Yeah. So, what role did customer education play in your business, especially with these like personalized vitamins and doing more personalized approach? And you said, you kind of had to find that perfect customer via ads and just kind of push your way through there.
Yeah. Well, when you look at e-commerce as a whole, you got to have a conversion funnel. So you got an ad, you got to hook them first, get them to watch the ad, look at the ad, whatever. So pictures, videos, all that stuff. We all know TikTok nowadays. It's like, there's the hook, there's the grab, there's the, keep the attention, and 95 out of 100 don't work. And then once you find some of them, you start pushing more and more towards that. So we put a lot towards Facebook, and our Facebook, Instagram, all that stuff. Google's great for what people already know. So if someone is looking up melatonin gummies, which people are, Google's great. When someone's looking up gummy vitamins and they see personalized pack, they're like, what the heck is that? So Google's not great for that. So you always got to look at, like, Facebook is going to be your discovery and Google is your search.
And when did you start seeing significant growth? Because you tried Facebook and you pushed your way to get your first several customers that way. But where did the significant growth come from?
Yeah, so we saw we saw a couple different phases of significant growth. The first significant growth that we saw was once we figured out Facebook ads and started scaling that. And so we just started pumping thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars a day into ads there. Because you'd see a good return, you turn around, put more in, right? But you also have to measure that with the operation. Then our next big growth was with Amazon. Saw really, really good growth with Amazon to start. And then our next one was retail. But retail takes give it 6 to 18 months. You're not going to close the door and get in less than 6 months. But give it 6 to 18 months, then you start to see good results. So that's kind of like how it started. And then kind of scaled throughout. And then really we saw another big jump with Amazon after I got rid of my agencies, all the agencies that I was working with, and did it myself. So it's once you figure out the formula, invest. If you can make money on your money.
Would you say that Facebook was your best marketing channel overall through the years that you did this?
17, 18, 19, probably 20. 20 was COVID. We were massive in retail at that. We were growing really, really fast in retail. And then we slowed down. iOS 14.5 messed up Facebook. So one thing to consider, right? Like anyone that's listening, understand the story, right? I'm talking about times of 17, 18, 19 were our prime of Facebook ads. They're not the same today. Now you can still be super profitable if you do it right, but it's just not the same. Like there's a reason why I went into Amazon advertising, growth, product, all that stuff to start rather than Facebook. Because I can make money in Amazon very quickly. It's hard to make money on Facebook ads now. And everyone talks about the past of like, oh, this sucks. I'm like, well, TikTok is building multiple $8 million eight-figure companies pretty quick.
Yeah. So did you focus on any partnerships, just like retail channels to help your growth? And you mentioned Amazon. Did you do any like personalized partnerships?
We kind of just went the classic route of what most did. We were some of the first to use influencers back in 2017. Partnerships, we really looked for like a key retailer. Like if you go look at Liquid IV or Vital Proteins or any of these big brands, 75, 80%, maybe 90% of their revenue is going to come from major retailers, Costco, Walmart, Target, all that stuff. And then Amazon will probably be their biggest channel for most of them. Their second biggest will either be retailer or direct to consumer, depending on the brand. And it'll be something like a Costco if they're in there, or Sam's Club. And then it's like your Walmart, Target. After that, like your local Hy-Vee, even though there's 100 stores or whatever, they don't do the volume. One of my favorite retailers, truthfully. Like they are so awesome. But and you'll do some good volume in those stores, but not comparably. So it's always important to know like which ones are the super important. Now, sometimes you have to get the 10 store chain to 50 store chain to 100 store chain to 500 store chain to 3,000 store chain, but only start in 200 locations and then grow up.
Okay. Okay.
Yep.
So moving toward the kind of the next section, I'd like to know a little bit about Revive. Can you tell us a little about your current business, Revive?
Yeah. So after growing Vita5, I was like, hey, took a little bit of time off and just decided like, what do I want to do? And looked at private equity, looked at starting another CPG company, looked at software, and I looked at the agency model. And realistically, with some of the non-compete and some of that stuff, I kind of want to just stay out of CPG. And I came up with some strict rules and principles that I still look at today. So these are them for me, and it's super important for me. So like the first thing is God first. So I want to make sure that no matter what I do, God's proud of everything that we do. What would Jesus do? Like if I've got a question, and my wife, I was asking her, I was like, what do I do with this? It was a hard decision. I couldn't figure out what I could do with whatever. And she goes, well, just put yourself, what would Jesus do if he was like, let's just say he was standing next to you. What do you think? And it made me think completely different. And then just being principled, right? So like if you saw anything on that, it's like no friends and family in the business. I just keep it clean. Friends are friends, family's family. I don't like, there's good and bad times within business. And so I just don't want to mix some of that stuff. And so after I looked at it deeper and deeper, I really liked the agency model with Amazon specifically, because it could be, it's a way that you can have a true win-win. And the reality, if anyone has worked with an agency, 95% of the time, it's a horrible experience. Horrible. I went through 12 direct-to-consumer agencies, okay? So like when I was like figuring out Facebook, I went through 12 of them to try to finally find one that I love. And so if anyone needs one, like I'll refer you so you don't have to go through the pain that I went through. And then same on the Amazon side. I had 7 different agencies I used, of which they were the best. I mean, I did so much research trying to figure out, I'm like, I got to find the best one, blah, 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 blah. Trash. Okay. Oh, decent. Oh, wait, changed account manager sucked. And I'm like, man, this is so obnoxious. So my whole take here is like, Christianity is the core of everything I do. And that is like the foundation that I sit on. Don't get me wrong. I fall short. I sin. I'm not saying that I'm perfect by any means. However, that is how I want to build my business. That's how I want to build my family. That's how I want to build this life. And everything kind of goes through that. The next thing is like, I want it to be a win-win. If I don't believe that I can make someone else's profit loss look better and my profit loss look better, then it's not worth it to do it. And so I'm just over the top transparent with people. And I don't care to build this business to a $20 million agency, truthfully. I've had my growth and had the good, stressful, great time, whatever. I have zero anticipation of selling this business. Zero. Could care less. I mean, if someone comes to me today, I'm like, nope, I'm good. Whereas before it was like, please someone email me about buying my business. I don't care what the number is. Just give me something to make me feel good. Now it's like, nope, I don't really. Anyways, we do Amazon growth as like the core of what we do. And how do we do that? We do that through advertising, through like launch strategies, through product choice, through, figuring out and manipulating the product to make it where it would fit perfectly for Amazon, all of that. So that's our whole thing. I've grown and done it myself. I then have now done it with dozens of brands, hundreds of products. And so I can pretty much tell you, hey, is this a product that can actually win or not before I even go to market, which is really cool to see.
That is really cool. I'd like to definitely get into a little more of that too. Did the inspiration and validation to start Revive come from Vita5?
Yeah, I mean, to be completely honest, like this is like where most people like Vita5 was fun. It was cool. It was like, it was a college kid's dream. And, I wouldn't say it was a dream for a number of years. I was getting paid, my first year I got paid $7,000. My second year I got paid $17,000. So there's no dream there. Later maybe, but this one was more of like, I am so freaking sick of garbage agencies just lying and not being, and I shouldn't even say lying because I don't think they mean to lie. It's just they're trying to start a business. They're trying to grow something, but they'll just fib and tell you, oh, you can do $100,000 a month for this one product when they know you can only do $10,000 a month because they know that's what gets them the sale. And so I was like, I'm sick of that. I'll be real with people and I'll lead people where it needs to go.
What do you see in successful products and launches since you've seen so many of these, different products?
Yeah. So market's really, really important. So what I'll always go through, and I always try to show people this before I give them like an audit on what their product is, because I don't want to make it emotional. I'm going to just tell you it and I'm going to tell you it straight. So electrolytes is incredibly difficult to get into, right? It's very, very expensive. Cost per clicks are $6, $7, $8, $9, $10. Okay. Like really expensive. Well, just do the math, right? You got a $30 product and it costs $10 a click. You're not getting a 35% conversion. I mean, if you get a 30% conversion, cool. It just costs you $30 to sell a $30 product. That's still not good. Mm-hmm. So that's really important. 1, market size. 2, what are the reviews of the other people? I talked to a guy, I think this is the most interesting thing. This is as simple as it gets. And people are going to be like, wow, this guy doesn't have any value because he's just telling you the basic stuff of whatever. But I'll promise you, almost no one gets this right. You have to have a better product. What does that mean? Exactly what we talked about earlier. Line up everyone else. I'll do this with agencies too. I come in at the most affordable for the value that I provide because that's what people want to buy, right? Like when you go look at a car and you want a white Ford Bronco Sport with less than 20,000 miles, what are you looking for? The highest price? Why the hell would you do that? That makes no sense. It's a commodity. So if you give me good service is great. I want a cheap car. It's like it's very, very commoditized. For me, it's a little bit different, right? So when I see these products, what I always do is I try to line them all up. There's absolute price and your unit price. So let's just say for this, this is my old company, they increased the price to $15. This is apple cider vinegar. It has 1,000 milligrams of apple cider vinegar. Customers are always smarter and dumber than you think. If there is an apple cider vinegar, this is a 50 count. If there's an apple cider vinegar 100 count with 1,000 milligrams for the same price, which one are you going to buy? I don't care if the bottle looks cooler. That is a cherry on top. That is not a reason that someone's going to choose. There will be people that will choose you. You will not get everyone though.
What am I missing anything on products and stuff? That I just love that idea, going back to that idea of lining up all of your competitors and finding the good in them. I just keep coming back to that.
Yeah, and find the bad in yours. Like where is, and the reality is like, I'll do this. Like, so with Lay's potato chips, you're going to say they've got seed oils and they're not healthy for you and they're not, but they taste really good. Let's all be real. Lay's chips taste better than almost every other chip out there. Now they make you feel bad. That's a disadvantage. They're cheaper. Like that's a massive, like almost no matter what the economy is, but especially in the economy today, it's not, price is a major factor. And so like, I always try to go out there and it's like, any feedback that you have, you've got to like take the personal, emotional out of it and just be like, if I charge $20,000 for my services and someone else will charge $4,000, come on. Right? Like, or maybe I'm hitting a different market, but like at the end of the day, you're not going to attract everyone. That's not the goal.
Moving toward kind of the end of the interview, mindset and growth, personal growth questions. How did you find a co-founder? I like to ask this question because you always see people on the internet. How do I find a co-founder? How do I find a co-founder? And so how did you find your co-founder?
Well, I'll ask you a question before. Why do you want a co-founder? And there's a couple things. So like when I was looking at getting into software, they were like, you need to have technical co-founder. Okay, well that makes sense.
Yep.
Like, is that co-founder actually going to add the value that you need? And I'm saying all this stuff, I'm gonna go the opposite way here in just a second. But you will likely have issues with your co-founder at some point. There are going to be certain things. If you are wanting to be an entrepreneur, you have got to be able to sell. If you don't like selling, let me just ask this question. If you like selling, you have the chance of becoming an entrepreneur. If you don't like selling, do not do entrepreneurship. Just enjoy your job. Jobs are not a bad thing. They're not the devil. Just because you have a boss does not mean anything bad. I've got a bunch of friends where I'm like, just keep your job. You're good. Quit trying to be an entrepreneur. It's a pain in the ass for the first while. So now then when finding it, I think the most important thing, I compare it to a wife. You're going to be spending 8, 10, 12 hours a day with that person. You better have your values straight. If you want someone to be Christian or Hindu or whatever religion you are, that should be a make or break. I heard someone from the other day and they said, we've hired a number of people and this is so simple, but so genius. She was like, yellow flags are red flag because if it's a yellow flag today, it will become a red flag someday. And you pick this wisely because now me and my partner, I will say this to this day. I just talked to him an hour ago. We are like great friends still, right? Like naturally in life, like he's going and doing his own thing. I'm doing my own thing. So we don't talk every day like we used to. But like, dude, we're great friends. Like, but the reason why is our values are like fully aligned. Christianity was a high priority. Well, the good thing about Christianity, or call it whatever religion, but like Christianity specifically, you got a book of values. And so this is the values that we should be doing. And if we both are on the same level and you say, hey, should we go to the strip club after our event? You go back and you go, no, because that's super simple and easy, right? And so that I think is the most important thing. People always look for like the technical or whatever. Forget that. You got a guy that's a narcissist that could care less about, whatever. I think it's also really important to have like similar stages of life because I've heard of other people where, they're 45, don't have kids, just him and his wife, and other people have young kids. Well, that's different, right? Like, sorry, but I'm not working Saturday afternoon or I wake up at 5, 6 and I'm gonna bust it and then I'll get done earlier. Well, other people are going to work late. So I think those are super, super important things that if you can't get those things right, don't even try it. And honestly, I would just like I always suggest to most people, do you really need a co-founder? Or is that just your comfort to like push some blame off on and, whatever?
Love that explanation. I especially love yellow flags or red flags. Oh, that's my new
That was huge.
saying.
That was new to me this week. I was like, thanks for that. I need that.
Yeah, I'm writing that down pretty much everywhere. I love that.
Yep.
As a business owner, is there any education, books, courses that have made impact on your businesses?
Man, I'm always learning. My wife makes fun of me because I'm like, just get super deep into whatever you're doing. There was a tornado coming through here. We're all huddled up in the laundry room, and I'm sitting there opening my phone up, watching videos on Amazon. What am I doing? And my wife still makes fun of me to this day, but I'm like, I just nerd out on whatever the specialty is. I'll tell you this, a book isn't going to make you money. A book's going to put you deep into it and all that stuff. And so I'm not a book reader, honestly. I got a buddy of mine. He reads 600 books a year. Man, I'm like, geez Louise, you read freaking 2 books a day? And he'll tell you the same thing. He's like, a book is worthless if you don't put in action. So it's like, there's a lot of people where it's like, you can learn, but at a certain point, just go. And my whole thing is, I'm like, if you're a brand new entrepreneur and you're scared or you're nervous or whatever, go really, really simple. Window cleaning business is an awesome business. A lawn care business is a really good business. These like boring, simple, whatever businesses, great businesses. Just get in, learn, go from there. So
beautiful advice. Again, are there any, I'm going to ask this question, even though I think you might have the similar answer as last time, but are there any specific mentors or role models that have influenced your business philosophy?
Craig Rochelle is one of my favorite. Craig Rochelle, he runs Life Church, but he also runs one of the largest leadership podcasts. I listen to everything on 2 times speed. If I was listening to this I'd listen to 2 times speed, and it is the only podcast that I am nonstop, like put some time aside. It is like Christian or not Christian, his leadership podcast is amazing. If you're in a company, it's really good. How do you manage your boss? How do you manage your employees? Like, because there's managing up and managing down, and there's, how do you get a promotion? There was a recent one on that one. And it is like just super, super real and very, very practical. We're like, literally it's like a 20-minute thing. And I'm like, I don't know how he has value at every single. So without a doubt, Craig Rochelle, leadership podcast. Craig Rochelle has been like, now he's not like someone that I know personally, but a couple connections away.
There's a question I love to ask every entrepreneur I meet. I feel like it gives context to how you became and who you are and how you got the mindset that you have. And that question is, what was your childhood like? Did you always want to own your own business?
Yeah. So my parents, we grew up, first 10 years of my life, my dad was in medical school, and then my mom was a nurse, 4 kids, and we had no money, nothing. And, my parents weren't big fans of debt, and they just like mac and cheese and whatever. And so, but it really just made us like, who cares? Like, things don't make you happy. Who you're with is what it's all about. And so, my parents were both medical though, so they weren't necessarily entrepreneurial. My dad had done a little bit of things that he like became partners within certain things and all that. So it wasn't necessarily encouraged or discouraged. I always wanted to start my own thing. And the reason why was I was 16, 17, and I used to go buy and sell MacBooks, and I'd do it the Michael Dell way. I'd sell the MacBook before I'd buy it. And it's like, oh, you want a MacBook Air 2013 back at the time? Okay, I'll sell it for $500 and I'll go find one for $350. And I go work my job and I'm like, wait, I just $150 when I just worked for $8 an hour I have to work all weekend to make this money. And I literally just spent an hour and a half. So I was just like, the math doesn't make sense. So that's why I want to become entrepreneurially. Honestly, I want to be a billionaire at first. And now I'm like, well, first, I don't think I could become a billionaire, and that's okay. People are like, oh, you could become one. And I'm like, shut the hell up. Who cares? I don't want to become one. I want to enjoy my family. I want to spend time with God. I want to do this. Not that you can't do that, but I'm like, it's such an outrageous thing. And then guess what? You get to go fly on a plane, and it's your own plane instead of Southwest plane. I don't, just meaningless to me. So,
it's funny how priorities change as you get older.
Totally. Wanted the supercar. Now I'm like, care less.
What advice would you give to someone looking to start their own business?
I personally, depending on how bad you want to start a business, if you want to start a business really bad, figure out like the reason why you want to. I really could care less about anything I don't have a passion for selling on Amazon. I don't have a passion for vitamins. Like, I like health and wellness. Like, it's great. And I want to help people, whatever. Like, I love seeing businesses grow. That's great. But it's not like a hobby of mine. So to me, it's more like, if you want to start a business, figure out the business model first. Because I've met too many people where they start and the business model doesn't work and they're nonstop fighting uphill. And what I mean by that is when you look at the gummy vitamin business, as I scaled my revenue and went from hundreds of thousands to millions to lots of millions, I grew too fast. I had no money in the business because it would take me 100 days to get my money back. Now I had good margin. I had 60 or 70% margins on my products, right? Because of the way that we had done it, it was like, CPG in general, you put money up, you pay your supplier, they send you the product 2, 3, 4 months later, then you sell it to your customer and you have to pay for the advertising along the way. So if you look at your profit loss on an accrual basis, it looks like you're profitable. On a cash basis, you lost a ton of money because you had to put all this money in inventory. Service-based businesses, time and whatever. And people go, oh, I don't want to trade time for money. Well, guess what? You're doing it right now. And you're going to do it. And you're always going to do it at a certain extent. If you build a company big enough, then you're not trading as much time for money. But get that out of your head. It's just a stupid way that people talk about, like, oh, I don't want to trade time for money. And it's like, well, you're going to. I still trade time for money. Now it's more money for my time. But so to me, I'm like, I would start super simple. The easiest way is to start with some service-based something. If you don't have marketing skills or finance skills, or you never went to college or whatever it may be, can you clean windows? Figure out how to clean windows. Cut lawns. It's easy, but make it better, right? So like if I was doing something and I really wanted to get into a business, I go start a window cleaning business. I find a way to mix a solution or something and make it where when rain hits, it falls off. Use a Rain-X type solution. I don't know. And be the most personable person ever. And go in and appreciate people and thank them and just, all that. And ask for, hey, do you have any referrals? And just kind of gradually build it. I know a guy that does $5 million a year with a window cleaning business. That's awesome. He's got good margin. I'll tell you, he's making a lot more money than a lot of people I know. And it's not sexy. So,
Yeah. Wow. That is awesome.
Yeah.
Where can people find more about you and your business?
I just say LinkedIn. I've got Instagram and Facebook and stuff, but I don't use it like that. So LinkedIn, NIKHLL, Nick Hall. And happy to connect with whoever. Always love sharing.
Nick Hall, thank you so much for joining us. It has been an absolute pleasure. You shared so many awesome stories, so many great pieces of advice. I just love talking to you. So I appreciate you taking time to do this.
Awesome. Thank you.